Well then, let's move on to the developments regarding Greece. There are also new developments regarding the Greek Cypriot administration. We will talk about them. Now there are the latest statements of the Greek Defense Minister Dendias. These are statements about the voluntary military service system. He says he wants to expand the army. But here is what he says when he talks about the voluntary reserve military service system. Those who have fulfilled their military service in the last 10 years will be invited, if they want to do so. They will become reservists in the future. He discusses the establishment of a new force consisting of active volunteer reservists with a target number of 150,000 personnel. This is crucial for our security and national survival. Additionally, there have been recent discussions about maritime spatial maps, and the Greek foreign minister has commented on this matter. It should be understood that this does not imply a declaration of control over the entire continent. We aim to maintain positive relations with Turkey. Furthermore, we have also discussed the possibility of expanding the territorial waters to 12 miles. However, doing so would restrict our access to a limited area and may not be practically feasible. Despite these contrasting statements, their implications need to be carefully analyzed. I will begin with your input and then invite Mr. Meat to share his thoughts.
Now let's see this obligation for military service. It is not normally possible for Greece to recruit troops.
Why? Would these be participating, that is voluntary reserve military service?
Because Greece, for contract soldier recruitment, 1,500. To recruit contract soldiers, when I was in office, look, 1,500. There were 300 applicants. Okay, 1,500. We increased to 50,000. The Turkish armed forces increased to 50,000. Oh, there were 1.5 million applications.
That's it.
No, it's normal for them to be scared. That's how they also have a very small young population. That should also be said, but there's a sign here. 150,000. In other words, he wants to build another army as big as his army.
Yes. There are comparative figures, right, friends? Let's look at them too.
Now
then I'll ask you about a story in the Catamarini newspaper.
Therefore, there is a very critical situation here. So Greece... Indeed. Turkey. It was against whom is Greece doing this? Against whom is Greece arming itself? No one should fool themselves. No one should fool themselves. Is Greece doing it against Italy?
Of course not.
Is Greece arming against Bulgaria? Is Greece doing it against Albania? Against whom?
Turkey.
Turkey. My friend Mitso. Our friend Mitso is doing this. Our friend Mitso is always yelling at us. And we ignore him? And they are trying to do it by blowing in our ears. Actually, our goal, not Turkey. Look, Turkey. Turkey has to arm itself. Turkey has to keep its army strong. Why? We don't care about Greece. What is Greece, really? This is not a Greek issue. Turkey is surrounded by the hottest. If you ask them where the most conflicted places are, they will say Ukraine, Turkey's neighbor by sea on the Black Sea. Georgia is under occupation, and by Russia. Isn't it? Yes, it is. South Ossetia Pesha is occupied. Armenia is right next door. More. In its constitution, Turkish lands in its Dibache. It recognizes Mount B as its territory. Armenia, it's written in the Diba of the constitution. It's written in the introduction. And on the state coat of arms of Armenia, there's B Mountain. Another country, our territory of Armenia, it is on the state coat of arms. Azerbaijan, his land is right next to us. Occupied. Just recently, liberated from occupation. Therefore, it is where the hot conflict is. Iran, where everyone's eyes are on us, our border neighbor. Iraq is our border neighbor. Syria, everybody. I mean the most bad places. Where are the most conflicted places? This is our place. This is our place. Lebanon, Palestine, Libya, everywhere. Turkey, therefore, Turkey had to be very strong. War on all borders. Right now, we only have the border where there is no war. The border where there is no war. It is the Bulgarian and Greek border. Everywhere else is war.
Am I?
Now then, Turkey's strong borders around these borders is a ring of fire. The biggest reason why this fire has not spread in Turkey has a strong armed forces. Well, and behind is that we have a strengthened defense industry. Now, this is a very important chance for us. In other words, Turkey is the 11th defense industry exporter in the world. And it is very good for our economy and unity. And it is very important for our survival, for our security. In other words, we should not think of it only as a trade, as an economy.
Isn't this a situation that Greece has accepted? Because in the past, the Greek Prime Minister made such statements to the Parliament. Turkey is much better than us.
Greece is already saying that I am only Greece, not Greece. We say we have nothing to do with Greece, right? Okay? He says why Greece is arming itself. Greece is arming for Turkey.
Because there was a news article in the Catamarini newspaper recently. You know, they are doing everything to prevent Turkey from buying FEXXVs, Meteor missiles, and Eurofighters on passing issues. Here, it is always a balance. Let us remain superior. Let us remain superior in the balance. But there is no such thing anymore. Hasn't such an equilibrium been long overdue?
Now look, in our territory, they call it Constantinople, isn't it? The Greek foreign minister says Constantinople. Yes, he does. Mitsotakis says Constantinople. Constantinople, he says. Just recently, Greece won Independence Day. I don't know how they celebrate it, and I don't know how we celebrate it. Ottoman, from the state, Independence Day. A place that did not save the Turks by genocide declared independent. He said, namely, and bring the German, your prince. They made a king, you know. The independence of Greece is something like this. The German prince came, Otto, where he became king. Otto became king. The Greek flag is one with the Bavarian flag. It is very similar. That's why the Germans, the French, the British, and the Russians, with the help of, they started such a genocide. Now we are trying to make a heroic story out of it. Our people are celebrating too. What about that march in Athens? Was Turkey not cursed? And what about, didn't they say Cyprus is Greek? So the intention is clear. Yes, I did. So what about the last time? Say, bishop, archbishop. This man is the archbishop of the Greek Orthodox Church in Cyprus. So he's Makarios. The man sitting in his office. And what did this man say? He said Turks will fight until the last Turk is left, right? He said he was calling everyone to this. So I'm asking you now. This man, Georgios, this guy. You know, I'm going to say something very interesting. Since it is not a Turkish institution, Lantern, my Orthodox Church, a Turkish institution. Isn't it a Turkish institution connected to the Fatiha Makam? In violation of Lausanne, this is Georgios, Lantern Cyprus, Greek Orthodox Church. Who appointed him Archbishop? Bartholomew. And the man appointed by Bartholomew. Turks should not stay on the island. The Turks should be expelled and killed. Hot man? Why, if it's a Turkish institution, why doesn't he dismiss him? His appointment is wrong anyway.
Yes, but you can dismiss him.
But he should come out and say this. Brother, how can you say such a thing? Did anyone hear him say that? And I'm asking, this Bartholomew, has anyone heard a word to that?
Hoja, tell him he can directly dismiss him.
Of course, if he appointed him, he can supposedly dismiss him. He supposedly appointed a man. He supposedly appointed a man who is against Lausanne and against the Constitution. But if you appointed him, then do the rest. Look at the Archbishop in America. There was an Archbishop in America. To Trump, yes. Trump, Giorgio too. This man gave Trump a cross and said, Constantinople is
Yes, I
gone,
did.
come and take it. Don't you remember? Of course we remember, you remember. And who appointed this man?
Did Zahid Hilmi pass? Yes, he did.
Do you know that this man is also a Turkish citizen? Adam, Bursa is again illegally authorized only in Gökçe, Bozca, and Istanbul, while the jurisdiction of this thing is in Istanbul, of the Greek Orthodox Church. This man was appointed Archbishop of Bursa, Metropolitan. Then he is appointed as a Metropolitan in Ayvalık. And the man is then assigned to America. The man appointed to America, Constantinople. The man who said, go take it. And who's throwing it? Huh? It is Bartholomew. Well, Bartholomew, how are you talking, brother? I condemn this. I don't accept such a thing. Has anyone heard you say that? No. Cyprus is not Greek. Cyprus, there are also Turkish people in Cyprus. There is also the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus. Have you heard Bartholomew say the slightest thing about the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus that he considers legitimate? Isn't this patriarchate an official institution of this state? Of course it is. How can he not count? That's why the Turkish Orthodox... There is the Patriarchate in Karaköy. Let's repeat it again. This Papa Eftim, whom Ataturk called Baba Eftim, a hero of the national struggle, a Turk, son of a Turk, a Christian. One. Pope, this Ataturk's on the premise, with the suggestion of founded this patriarchate. Therefore, the Turks has a patriarchate. Turkish Republic
Who did you
of Northern
communicate
Cyprus.
with when you went there, Hoja?
The Republic, of course. Under a flag that says Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, under the picture of Ataturk, they are holding a service in Turkish. They don't even have a Turkish option here. On his site, on his website. Forget Greek. Everything is in Greek.
An answer to those who criticize you for going there.
Of course, of course, of course.